Welcome everyone to the December Iredell-Statesville Schools Board of Education meeting. We've got some entertainment and several business issues to discuss tonight as well. So we hope it'll be an enjoyable evening for everyone as we try to transact the business of the school system. We generally begin our meeting with a moment of silence. I'll ask everyone, if we will, to begin the meeting. Let's all just bow in silent meditation for the first few moments, keeping in mind the issues that we have before us with the keeping the focus on the students in our school system. So if you will, bow with me for a few moments of silence. Thank you. Let's stand for the presentation of colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll ask the retired school personnel if they would want to come forward now, I believe, and present some special holiday music. While they're coming forward, for those who don't attend regularly, this group has been very supportive of the school board meetings for a lot of years. I'm not sure. They were supportive of the school system when they actually were working day by day, but now they come and enrich us with holiday music every year during the December meeting. We really appreciate them coming for us.
Joy to the world, the Lord you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. Good tidings for Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Oh, she got me one this year. She gave me one last year.
Thank y'all for letting us sing for you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you.
There's yours.
We wish you all a Merry Christmas and
Yes, ma'am. This note says, I counted wrong again. Sorry. You will be rewarded later when I go to heaven.
Today with chocolate covered cherries.
I'll share with him.
we thank you for the time and effort that you give to us every year by coming and ringing in the Christmas spirit here at our board meetings. We know that honestly that takes time for you all out of your daily lives to come over. And it obviously sounds like you've had a lot of practice time put in as well because it sounded great and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So again, we thank you for your support. Well, it's hard to follow the rest of the meeting after that, but let's move on with our consent agenda. We have, under administration, no items tonight, but under personnel, we have the usual items, the acceptance of resignations, retirements, rehires, terminations, and leaves of absence, the acceptance of classified personnel, approval of licensed personnel, and approval of administrative appointments. Dr. Hargrave, I guess, standing in for Dr. Lassane tonight.
Yes, Dr. Cash, Mr. Johnson, members of the board. Dr. Lassane is working on a special assignment, and she is unable to be here for this portion. Although this was discussed at the committee of the whole meeting on last Monday, and if you have any questions, I'm prepared to answer those for you at this time.
Any questions from the personnel report? Okay, thank you, Dr. Hargrave.
Thank you.
The other item under consent agenda is the minutes from November 4th, Committee of the Whole meeting, and the November 4th Board of Education meeting. Remember, we had those two meetings combined in one evening. So if there are no adjustments, additions, or corrections, to those minutes, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the items on the consent agenda under personnel and the minutes from November 4th.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think that motion carries. Mr. Johnson, I believe you had a couple introductions you wanted to make.
Yes, sir. Let's see, board members, one of the appointments that you approved tonight was the new principal at Sharon Elementary School, and that young man is Andrew Mehall, and Andy's here with his family. So Andy, if you'd like to stand, please. Andy is no stranger to our school system. He has worked here for several years. Upon graduating from Gardner-Webb University in 2010 with his master's degree in school administration, Andy has served as a teacher in Charlotte-Mecklenburg. He's also been a teacher at Third Creek Elementary School. He was an instructional facilitator for us, and I will say that he was one of the standouts as an instructional facilitator as well. Andy got this wild hair and wanted to go into school administration, so he left us last year and went to work for Davie County, where he was an assistant principal at Coolamy Elementary School. He contacted us this summer and said that he'd like to come back, and so Since this past summer, he's been the assistant principal down at Cottle Creek Elementary School. Andy will begin his new duties as the principal at Harmony January the 1st. And I will say thank you to the committee there that helped us make this selection. We met with that faculty last week, and they are very excited about Andy's appointment. So Andy, congratulations to you. Welcome to Harmony a second time, this time as principal, and we wish you the best of luck as you begin those duties there. Thank you. Congratulations. Is Tina Wilson here tonight? Tina Wilson is also assuming new duties as our new manager of child nutrition. Trish Campbell, of course, is retiring at the end of the month. Trish, too, is a longtime employee of the Iredell-Statesville school system. She worked in the private sector in food service for many, many years and came to work for us and has worked her way up through the ranks as a cafeteria worker, a cafeteria manager. She is currently a child nutrition supervisor, and January 1st will assume her responsibilities as the new director of child nutrition. So we're very excited to see Tina staying on board with us and working her way up through the chain of command. We're very excited, and I think she'll do an excellent job for us. So let's welcome Tina on board as well.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Let's move on into our recognition portion of the meeting. First, we have the Community Schools Award, Ms. Susie Weiberg.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. Well, PNC Bank has been a district-wide partner with Iredell-Statesville Schools since October of 2010. And Heather Gray is the banking center manager at the branch on Broad Street in downtown Statesville. It's because of her desire to become involved personally in our schools that we now have Bank Day at NB Mills Elementary. Last summer, Heather and I met with Kim Mitchell, who is here tonight, principal at NB Mills, to discuss what PNC Bank could do to promote financial literacy among the students at NB Mills. Heather completely sold Kim on the idea of savings accounts for students at absolutely no cost to families, no minimum balance, and no minimum deposit amount. Did I not just sound like a commercial? I did, didn't I? For PNC. Heather also offered to teach 2 fifth-grade students to be the tellers for Bank Day. Bank Day happens once a month, right on the school campus, but the accounts are regular savings accounts through PNC. Heather Gray went to the open house at NB Mills in August to present this idea to families and sign folks up for savings accounts. She has stood in the car rider line at NB Mills on a very cold and windy day to talk to parents and encourage participation right there in the car rider line. We knew it would take some time to develop this idea, but Heather and PNC are in this for the long haul. Encouraging savings at this young age, developing leadership skills, and creating some great relationships between students and the greater community is what really this is all about. And we are very lucky to have Heather Gray in our community. She is here tonight, and Mr. Rogers, if you would please present her with her Community Schools Award. Thank you, Heather. Kim said she would rather not. Go right towards this. That's okay.
Next, Michael Russell from Energy United is here to present the Bright Ideas Grant recipients.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here again tonight. It's my 5th year doing this in front of the board, so it's a real pleasure for me to do this. I'd like to introduce Michelle Marquardt. Michelle is Energy United's Manager of Corporate Communications, Photography, and Keeper of the Big Check. So she's extremely important tonight. Energy United is an electric cooperative headquartered here in Statesville. We serve over 120,000 customers in 19 counties. And we take one of our corporate goals to be a good corporate citizen in the communities that we serve. That's one of the most important things that we do. And the Bright Ideas grant program is the cornerstone of the way that we do that. The Bright Ideas program provides funding for classroom, hands-on, innovative instruction programs and materials. So I'm happy to announce tonight 3 winners from Iredell County. We will go ahead and present those checks in the classroom over the next couple of days to the 3 recipients. The Bright Idea program started in 1995. All 26 cooperatives in the state participate, and over that time, over $8 million has been granted to North Carolina educators. This year, Energy United received 94 applications, and we are providing 24 grants totaling just under $40,000 to educators in the areas that we serve. So the 3 winners this year, first one is Heather Przinski from Troutman Elementary, and her program is iPads for Inspiration. This project will be used for English as a second language students. The iPads will help students develop listening, speaking, reading, and writing in English through use of fun and engaging technology. The second winner is Brenda Stewart. Brenda is at the Collaborative College for Technology and Leadership. This project will help special needs students reach their goals by using cutout images, letters, that allow early college students to create visual displays, and will also provide the hands-on manipulatives for the medically fragile students. Both are required for their IEPs. And the third recipient is Sarah Webb. Sarah's at Lake Norman Elementary, and her program is Kindle Fires for Reading Instruction, using Kindle Fires to increase engagement and teach students to use technology tools and increase their passion for learning. Again, thanks for your time, and this is one of the my favorite things I get to do with Energy United. So thanks, Merry Christmas.
Mr. Johnson, did you have some words about the retired school personnel?
Well, is Steve Sheets here? Could we postpone that portion of the agenda until Steve Sheets arrives? They were having a little tea for him at the school, and he's running just a little bit behind schedule.
Okay, sure.
So when he comes in, we'll do that.
Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed on with our non-consent agenda. I understand that we may have proposed adjustment to that agenda tonight. Anna, did you have a motion?
I did. We have some, I guess, questions, some issues that we would like cleared up. We would like to, I am making the motion to table the implementing of the park grant until the January meeting.
To get more information?
Yeah, for more information purposes
Okay,
and for review of the curriculum, for the review of the curriculum.
okay. Is there a second to that motion? To adjust the agenda to table item A1?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm not opposed to postponing it. However, I would like to see the full curriculum. I'd like to see the entire curriculum. I'd like to see any supporting DVDs or any other documentation that goes along with it as part of that review.
So you're not opposed to the motion per se, other than just as others are wanting more information
Correct.
for review. So, any other comments or questions, discussion? about the motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that item will be tabled till January, and we'll receive more information, and we'll discuss this with Linda Rogers as well.
Mr. Chairman, can we make another adjustment to the agenda?
Okay?
I know there's some folks here that wanted to talk about that tonight. I'm not sure if they still want to after it's been postponed, but could we move the public comment period to now instead of waiting toward the end, if it pleases the board?
Does anyone, since we're just changing the timing, does anyone have objections to going ahead and doing the public comment section? If not, let's go ahead then. We have 5 speakers signed to speak tonight. We'll go ahead and do the public comment portion. I'll just make a couple comments as we begin the public comment. But I ask the speakers, when I call your name, to come forward to the podium so that we can all hear you across the room. And we'll ask that you state your name again and the topic that you're speaking about, and then make your comments in a respectful manner. And then we generally, as a board, do not respond back to public comment, but we do take those comments seriously, and we'll take that back with us and ponder and use whatever information you give us that we need to. But if we will, keep your comments to 3 minutes, just so it's fair to everybody else. So the first speaker is Christy Boring.
Good evening. I'm Christy Boring. My daughter is currently not a student with the Iredell-Statesville school system. She is at American Renaissance School. However, we are in the process of deciding where she may go to high school. And I happen to see this on the agenda and am very concerned. Had a very busy day. Didn't really get to prepare any comments like I wanted to. But I did send all of you an email. I hope that you all got it. I'm just very concerned. I think this is, for lack of a better word that I can come up with, ridiculous. My family is very much against this program. Even if it's an opt-out option for the parents, we are still very against it. If this program were to go through and this class happens, even if my daughter does not attend, what is the topic of conversation going to be at school that day, that week, that month? And I do not want my 14-year-old daughter exposed to that type of conversation at school, not by a teacher who goes by a script and not around other students. And I just am very, very concerned, and I hope that y'all will really take a moment to look at this curriculum and really evaluate. I don't think that it will make any difference. I've talked to several students who have done this with the option of going to school on the weekends or after school, and to me, in speaking to them, they went strictly for the $100 Visa gift card that they received. They didn't learn they learned something all right, but stuff I don't think they needed to know. And I just hope that y'all really take this into consideration, really, really, really take a look at it. And if you have children in school or have had children in school, would you want them to have this information? And I really do not want my daughter to have it, other than what I give her at home. We're a family who teaches abstinence, and we do not want anybody else to teach our daughter or my son, who's already graduated, anything differently. So thank you for your time, and I really hope that you'll take this the deepest consideration. This is a very touchy subject, I realize, and I realize that not all kids have the same opportunities that maybe mine do. But I don't believe this is the right thing to pass. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker is Mac Murray.
Good evening. My name is Mac Murray, and I sent all of you an email, I guess it was Thursday, about this topic. I was both encouraged and not aggravated, but frustrated, maybe the word. Three responses from the board. But I do want to thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak what I need to say about this topic. It's not the right direction for our children. It's not the right direction for education. Schools are here to teach our children how to read and how to write, how to do math, things like that. I do see and to say that I'm a little nervous right now would be an understatement. I have never spoken to a board before, so please bear with me if I do ramble, but I don't mean to. I have twin sons that went through the Iredell-Statesville school system. They're 20 years old. They both serve in the United States Air Force, and I'm proud of them for that. They didn't have to deal with this. I taught them at home the respect, values that they have with them today. I have a 16-year-old who is at Statesville High School. He didn't have to go through this curriculum either. He did have to go through the health part of it in 9th grade, as every 9th grader has to. He said to me on the way to this meeting tonight, "Dad, I don't understand. These people going into high school, they're already feeling a lot of pressure. It's a new school, a new environment. And now you have to throw this in front of them." And I understand that there's an opt-out. As the young lady said before, there is an opt-out to this. But if you have to have an option to opt out of something, maybe you shouldn't be putting it out there. Just saying. I teach my kids abstinence as well. I think it should be taught at home. I'm a firm believer in that. I think we're taking this topic to levels where it doesn't need to be with our 14-year-old kids. I still have a 7-year-old and I have a 3-year-old. And I plan to stay in Statesville, Iredell County area for a while. I like it here. And I like the values that you guys support. But I just think you're going in the wrong direction with this particular topic. I want to thank you for the time that you've given me tonight, and I appreciate it, and y'all think long and hard on this, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Scott Klontz.
Dr. Cash, members of the board, Mr. Johnson, I have a copy of a now invalid compensation schedule that the school system agreed to with Dr. Hargrave that you folks changed, obviously, to bring yourself up to snuff last Monday night. One thing that I noted on this compensation schedule is that the base salary for Dr. Hargrave also lists in parentheses that the date of that pay would be effective January 1, 2013. I think that goes against all accounting principles when it comes to fiscal years. And I just want to make sure that the board members present will go and look at that paperwork that you just recently approved and reflect on whether or not you also made that commitment to Dr. Hargrave. And if you did, Dr. Hargrave, I hope you get your money. I'd like to thank Mr. McMillan, who's not here tonight, for his teaching the board and myself and the others in attendance on August the 6th, 2012, General Statute 143 on open meetings. This board and administration seems to disregard their own ethics, policies, and state laws as related to the open meeting law. Ethics item 1 in your policy states specifically the need to obey all applicable state and federal laws regarding official actions taken as board members. At the Committee of the Whole meeting last week, a closed session was held without a, quote, permitted purpose allowed by general statute. Rallying the troops to run for upcoming school board elections and questioning media leaks are not protected purposes. If a high school civics student were to observe and engage in school board operations, they would be both appalled and confused at what they see. I'd like to thank Mr. Gallion and Mr. Shoemaker for in the past few weeks expressing your right to free speech. Thank you.
Next speaker is Edith Levan.
Good evening. My name is Edith Levan. Lived in Iredell County for 49 years. And I presently work at Primetime for Kids at based at Central School. But I travel to all 17, no, I don't think there's 17 now, but all the elementary schools. When I was hired in 2008 by Renee Edwards, she called me and asked me to come for an interview. I had been going to Mitchell to Miss Dee Dee Dunst was my professor, learning about child care, early childhood credentials, to get my credentials. Thought sometime I might want to go back to work. I had retired from JCPenney. And she said, if you will take this job, and I'd like to insert here, my director's here today, Miss Eller. She can't help anything that happened in the past. She's a wonderful person. But Miss Edwards did tell me, if you will take this job and go to all the schools in Iredell County, any day, any time that I call you, she said, I will give you morning care hours at Central so you can have benefits. Well, we've been hearing for a couple of years, off and on now, that morning care was going to close. But we were also told, don't worry about it, don't get stressed out, it's not a done deal, that type of thing. So I was sitting there last Tuesday morning, I believe, I can't remember what day it was, and I was reading the paper, and it was in the paper that Central, Cool Springs, and Celeste Hinkle morning care would close. Not all morning cares, that was first discussed. But Renee told me she would give me the morning hours so I would have full benefits and have health insurance, which at that time I was wanting to do that because I had just retired from JCPenney, and I wanted to have a part-time job. It ended up turning into a 6-hour, which is full-time for prime time. To make a long story short, there's 3 of us there at Central, Rhonda Baker, Chris Johnson, and myself. Rhonda's been with the Statesville school system for 20 years. Chris has been there 11 years. Chris was also told by Renee, we're in the Central building, community building, out beyond the Central school. Actually, can't see the building from the school. But Chris, one of the group leaders, fell and broke her arm one morning, so Renee says, I'm never going to leave one person out there with the children, so she asked Chris to take that job, and he did, and he quit a job to take that job. So Chris and I are in the same situation, to lose benefits and to lose 1/3 of our pay. And we're there at 6 o'clock in the mornings to look after the kids before school. We're there in the afternoons. I'm at all the schools. Today I worked at NB Mills. And I've always went when I was asked to go. And so we will lose benefits, and we will lose 1/3 of our pay, which is $10.82 an hour, and I appreciate that much, but that's what it is. Also, there's 2 other group leaders, one at Celeste and one at Cool Springs, that will lose their benefits. As far as I know one of them, well, I don't know about the other. This wasn't a planned speech. I was coming home from NB Mills and called to a board member, and he said, why don't you come and voice your opinion? I said, okay. And I'm doing this in all honesty and sincerity. I'm asking that the board would consider Renee's honor her promises, but also I want to do a good job. I love the children. I mean, it's not easy. I walked into NB Mills, and they handed me a thing, 14 children's name on it I had never seen before, all kindergartens and first graders, and a lot of the names were just alike, and those kids don't want you to not call them by their right name. They want you to call them the correct name. So it's not easy to do this job. So I'm asking that you would reconsider and not close the morning cares at the 3 schools that you have decided to at this time. If we can't build the numbers up, then, okay, we'll have to face it. But we may have to face it now, but that's what I'm asking you to do as a board, and I appreciate the time you granted unto me to speak to you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Ronnie Wooten.
Dr. Cash, Board, Mr. Johnson. My name is Ronnie Wooten, and I'm here to make a couple comments on the Making Proud Choices curriculum. I'm glad to see that you tabled it tonight. That was the bare minimum that I was looking for tonight. I guess after reading the article in the Record and Landmark last week and then hearing a few comments, not having information and not going and getting information is one of the biggest problems I think that we have in our community with our parents and maybe with the board. I was going to ask you not to raise your hand, but how many of you have read the entire curriculum for the Making Proud Choices curriculum? I went over and did review it today and talked to Ms. Rogers, and she is very passionate about this, and she believes in this program. And there's some very good things in the curriculum. There's also some things that are very concerning. Of course, I was very concerned, first of all, that we would pay a $100 Visa card to a kid to take a class. That is essentially a bribe. But the federal government had a hand in that, so that's to be understood. The curriculum was designed for inner city youth. And I really don't believe that the Iredell-Statesville system meets the demographics that the curriculum was designed to target. The things that concerned me the most was what I'd heard about the graphic language that was used in it and the demonstrations that were used, and I verified that information today. And I just don't see how, for the youth of Iredell-Statesville, that it's a benefit to have this program implemented countywide. Ms. Rogers gave me the handout that you've gotten that shows the decline in the pregnancy rates, but that also includes the abstinence programs that's being taught also. All those are lumped in together. So that's not only for this curriculum. I firmly believe that we're breaking down the natural defenses that our minor children should have toward one another by allowing them to touch condoms and to use the strategies that's outlined in this curriculum. Girls and boys are not separated. It's a co-ed class at 14 years old. And honestly, I wanted to read you some of it tonight, but I didn't have the courage to read the language that's contained in the curriculum out loud in a public setting. And so I hope that when you have time to go back and review this in its entirety and discuss it among yourselves, that no matter how passionate Ms. Rogers is about the program and what the numbers say toward the decline, as I pointed out, it's not all related to this curriculum. I've seen enough and verified enough for myself to believe that this is not the curriculum for ISS. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a curriculum, but I don't believe this is a curriculum. And I was going to ask you tonight to vote not to expand it. But I do hope that you have an opportunity to review that, and we'll see how the meeting goes in January. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment section. I think I saw Steve Sheets come in. Ray, did you want to make the presentation to the retired school personnel?
Yes, thanks, Dr. Cash. Steve, why don't you make your way on up to the front here? And it's no secret that Mr. Sheets is retiring at the end of this month, and we have already brought you his replacement. And we wanted to take just a minute tonight to honor Steve. And this young man is concluding a career that spans 40 years in public education. That's almost unheard of these days. Steve has done an outstanding job for our system as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal, and he had a reception at the school this afternoon, and I made the comment to him that, you know, every place that Steve has ever worked, he's left it better than he found it. And, you know, what a high honor that is for anybody in this business. But he has had a stellar career with us. He is viewed by many of the principals as one of the senior principals. His knowledge of elementary curriculum is second to none. One particular strong skill set that Steve has is reviewing lesson plans and making sure that those plans are meeting the needs of the kids in his building. And that's a very time-consuming process to go through that with every teacher in your building. But tonight, we did want to honor Steve on his retirement and wish him well in his future endeavors. Steve, if you'll come up front here, we do have a plaque for you. And board members, I'm going to ask if all of you will go forward. And Mr. Gallion was a hire that Steve made many, many years ago. So, Mr. Gallion, we're going to ask you to present the plaque to him and let all the board members pose with Steve on his retirement.
I want him to tell us about Ohio State.
No stories tonight, please.
Cash and board, Mr. Johnson, I did have a chance to go out and see him earlier because I knew we had a board meeting, and I did ask him, I said, what about Ohio State? And he said, well, they're not going to play for the BCS and they're not going to the Rose Bowl.
Next, we have a presentation tonight called the Ignite Summit Anti-Bullying Initiative by Ms. Jennifer McLean. So welcome, Jennifer. Dawn, did you have an introduction first, or
I don't. I'm going to let her do her presentation, and then we'll recognize her when she's finished, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer McLean, and I'm a freshman at Statesville High School at the James Iredell AP Academy. To do something great, you have to have a passion, and you also have to have a vision. When I was brainstorming for my silver project, I wanted to make a difference. At first, I thought I wanted to find a way to showcase student success, but I found out what I was really passionate about. Bullying is a national epidemic, and I've been personally affected by it. This issue has been in the local and national news since September, at least 4 times, I think. So to get the Girl Scout Silver Award, you have to complete 50 hours of service. I completed 75 at least. This project must make the community a better place, it must be lasting, and I must do all parts of the project. I researched from November to April, and I went to Raleigh, I went to other school systems, and I ended up in Charlotte, and I met John Conselman and Fred Hudson, and he is from the Attorney General's office, and he helped found the summit in Charlotte. And so I got invited to the summit, and I decided that that was something that I wanted to do. We had lots of planning meetings. We wanted to make sure that the summit was going to run smoothly. And in August, we finally had a name for it, and we found this. I thought it was great. Be the spark. We want everyone in the schools to be a spark and to ignite a wildfire to stop bullying. Our purpose and mission is the Ignite Summit is an anti-bullying summit sponsored by Iredell-Statesville Schools. The goal of this summit is to empower Iredell-Statesville School student leaders in grades 6 through 12 to proactively address bullying in their schools. This includes gathering the skills and resources necessary to promote a positive peer culture and empower bystanders to address bullying if they witness it, develop strategies to implement respectful and tolerant peer relationships. Each team of students has to come up with a plan to stop bullying at their school. There are 5 students from each middle and high school that are on these teams. The Ignite Summit will occur semi-annually. The next one will be in April. Part 2 of this project is the Faces of Diversity, and Edwin Gill is a Colombian artist from Charlotte, and he is the one that put this face together. We had collections of fingerprints before the summit at Statesville High School, and the students get involved, and it helps to tip the scale for a positive climate and culture in the school. This change starts with the students. That was Summit Day. We had 4 speakers, and also we got one of our representatives to come, Miss Turner. And Natalie Pasquarella came. She was one of the keynote speakers, and I think everyone was very excited to meet her. Lots of people got to take pictures. I also spoke. I was the first speaker. And up in the top corner, we had a lady that was a burn victim, Miss Charlene Pale, and she was in one of the breakout sessions. John Conselman and Mr. Hudson also spoke, and Reverend. We were live tweeting that day, and there was so many great tweets. I also got text messages, and I think everyone is ready for a change. I think everyone's been bullied at some point of their life, and it's an issue that we really need to take care of. So we have a Face of Diversity now at Statesville High School, and it's in front of the auditorium. We got the funding for it, and I think it's a great part to start the change because the kids actually have their fingerprint, and there have been so many positive comments already by the teachers that there's positive change starting already, and I think the Face helped to start that. So we've ignited a spark, and I couldn't do it without Mr. Johnson believing in me. I met with him when we were starting the project, and we were brainstorming. We knew we wanted to do something great, and I couldn't have done it if he wouldn't have believed in me. Also, I had a lot of support. I couldn't do it without Miss Dawn Creason, Jada Jonas, Sally Eller, Kelly Cooper, Kelly Marcy, Jim Elliott, Jane Riley, and Garriott Rose, and more people. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to item B, the Cloverleaf All-Play Paving Project. Dr. Kenny Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Cash, members of the board, Mr. Johnson. That's a tough act to follow. It was a great job by that young lady, and a very important topic as well. I have several items on the agenda which are related to budget. The first is the Cloverleaf All-Play Paving Area. It's a joint effort between the Cloverleaf PTO and Iredell-Statesville Schools. And we have bids. The bids exceeded our threshold of 50,000 and needs to have board approval. We have the budget in place. The PTO is providing a third of the funding. Iredell-Statesville has it in their budget for the other two-thirds of the funding. We would ask that we accept the lowest responsible bid, which is T.L. Huffman, $61,000. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions, comments? This is a voting item, so if there are no questions or discussion points, I'll entertain a motion that we accept the proposal offered, as Dr. Miller outlined.
Make the motion that we accept the T.L. Huffman offer for the paving at Cloverleaf.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
That motion carries. Kenny, if you just want to run on through your
Right.
other three
Items
C,
D, and E are all lottery applications. They are reimbursements for projects that are already complete or almost complete. I think we have one of those projects that is still has a little bit of work to do. But all of these, they have been budgeted, and they were bid projects. And so we're ready to apply for our application for lottery proceeds to reimburse our own project. So I would ask for approval to submit applications to the County Commission for approval for these three projects: Statesville Middle School's entrance, West Iredell High School restrooms, and the Cool Springs wastewater treatment upgrades.
We can do all those in one motion.
Make a motion, we take all three, item C, D, and E.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Miller. Next, we have item F, the local option for alternative schools. Dr. Taylor, this also is a voting item.
Dr. Cash, members of the board, Mr. Johnson, we've shared with you the state requires that alternative schools submit local option goals as a part of their accountability plan, and those goals must be approved by the local board. The state provides a listing for those alternative schools to choose from. Two of those, at least one of those goals has to be from something addressing higher student expectations or student progress and proficiency. And both of the schools have met that requirement, and then they can select the other two from the list provided. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have. This is regarding Presley and Monticello.
Do they do this every year?
Yes.
It's every year?
It's
And
a
how
year.
have they done on these goals past several years?
Last year, they did not meet some of their goals. In the past, they have met them. So it has varied from year to year as to whether or not they've met their goals.
We feel good about this, though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? We can entertain a motion then to accept these option goals as listed for both Monticello and Presley schools.
I make that motion to accept those.
Do we have a motion? Is there a second? Second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Dr. Taylor. And then we'll move on to some policy reviews now. I will
I have G through O.
ask you to present those in whatever order you want, and we can, these are second readings and do require a vote, so we can do them all together or separately if you see fit.
I can just give you a brief overview of the goals. For the most part, there were very minor additions to the goals. Policy 1310 and 4002 addresses parental involvement, and it basically requires the district to notify parents of the dates of assessments and how those assessments will be used. We do that through our website and through different notifications that are sent to parents. We also address Policy 3100 with curriculum development. That adds a footnote which includes the instruction of cursive writing by the end of 5th grade and the memorization of multiplication tables. Policy 3110 really was something we already had in place through our advisory board at CATS. Policy 3405 addresses students at risk of academic failure, and it changes some minor wording and eliminates the district reporting of the requirement for personal education plans. We actually have these plans in place through our RTI program, and that starts in kindergarten, as early as kindergarten, so we exceed and meet the requirements of the changes to that policy. Policy 3410, testing and assessment program, adds a requirement for secure testing and administration and processes dealing with any state-administered test. So that would include the addition of the NC final exams that we've talked about previously at some of our meetings, and addresses timelines for those exams and end of grade tests. Policy 3430 addresses the school improvement plan and several issues regarding transparency in that school improvement planning process and the inclusion of parents in that piece. Policy 3460 addresses graduation requirements and the addition of a career endorsement, a college endorsement, or a college plus endorsement in addition to the NC academic endorsement. Policy 3540 adds the requirement for the comprehensive health education plan that we provide instruction on preventative risks for preterm birth and subsequent pregnancies. And Policy 4700 just adds some language addressing the endorsements that were addressed in 3460. So I'd be glad to answer any further questions that you may have about any of those policies.
Just a couple of comments on the General Assembly passing the requirement we teach cursive writing and multiplication table. I know some people think like it's a waste of time, but we've got other important things to teach, but in particular, the multiplication table requirement, I think, is a smart move. Dr. Taylor, what year will we start that, or have we decided on the multiplication?
That actually is already in the curriculum. It is a part of what teachers were already working on. Typically, it starts in 3rd grade.
So we never stop?
So we never stopped that
Okay.
piece. And even though cursive writing was not officially in the curriculum, teachers did not devote as much time to it as they once did, but most of our teachers were still addressing that in the 3rd and 4th grade. Many of them were doing it as centers, morning work, that type, but we have had the conversation that that will be incorporated in that 3rd, 4th grade realm as well.
Well, my 2nd grade teacher, Miss Pridgeon, is no longer with us, but she would be awfully proud tonight to know that we're going to continue to teach cursive writing. She was a huge advocate of that.
4th grade teacher would be as well. I spent many hours at the board practicing that.
And being left-handed, I always told Margaret Pfeiffer at Mulberry that she was doing it backwards. So.
I'm writing upside down.
Any other comments or questions about these policies?
On the graduation requirements, I know it's not on here, but just in case you're not aware of it, I noticed the high schools are asking for people to come and help grade their projects. So if the board's not aware, I know I saw it at West Iredell, but they are
Yes, I think
asking
West Iredell's next Wednesday.
Right, the projects. Thank you, Dr. Taylor.
All right. We'd like to vote on these all en masse. I'll entertain a motion that we accept these policies as revised.
I move we accept these policies as they are revised, as such, and as they are presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Dr. Taylor. The remainder of policies, I guess, P through T that we're talking about, that'd be Dr. Hargrave.
Dr. Cass, Mr. Johnson, members of the board. Item P deals with the primetime programs in which we did a presentation for you on last Monday and shared with you the numbers concerning the enrollment and also what it cost us in terms of salaries and benefits to operate the programs. And you can see in the far right corner that each of the programs right now is losing money. And if we recall that the primetime program was to be our enterprise program in which it was supposed to be self-sustaining and not that the district was to support it. So we have worked over the past years to try to increase the number of students participating in the morning as well as the afternoon programs, but currently each of our morning programs is still operating at a loss. The recommendation that we brought to you on last Monday was that we would close the smallest 3 programs, Cool Springs, Central, and Celeste, because of the numbers and because of the cost involved in operating each of those programs. And we also said that we would continue to look at the additional programs to see if we could continue to maintain those programs as well. But because of the numbers that they have, we felt that it was manageable and that we could continue to try to recruit students to participate in those programs. We'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have concerning this.
Questions or comments for?
I think, you know, hearing Ms. Levan speak earlier, you know, this isn't just erasing debt. You know, this touches people's lives, it touches children. Unfortunately, we're in an environment where we have to make these cuts, and it hurts, and it hurts real people. And, you know, we just can't forget that, but, you know, I don't know how we can continue doing this.
Okay. And Ms. Bonham, you're correct, and we do understand that. And what we have said is that we would make every effort to try to find these staff members' positions elsewhere in the district. Not just that we would come in and cut programs and put people on the street, but we will make every effort to try to find employment elsewhere in the district.
Just so I understand, we're looking at a total of 49 students over 10 months, and we're in the red $44,000. That's, I don't see how we can't consider closing all of them at this point.
That's just a day program you're talking about, the morning program, right? Not closing the evening program.
No.
These are the morning programs, the numbers that coincide with the morning programs.
No, if we're looking at the program, just like Mr. Shoemaker just said, I mean, we're closing 3 of the programs, and we're going to hopefully move our personnel somewhere else, hopefully. But we came up short of closing all of these at this time. So this is a first step, and we're going to look at the other 3 very shortly. So this is a program, just like he's just mentioned. We've got few students and we're losing this much money. This is something that we can't afford to do.
If I understood correctly, I think Mr. Shoemaker is raising the idea for discussion about going ahead and considering all programs listed here, since we're losing significant money in each. And as I understand from our discussions last week, multiple tactics have already taken place over the last few years to try to build these programs larger, and we've not been very successful in getting the morning programs any busier than they already are. So I think Ms. Shoemaker raised the idea about whether we should go ahead and discuss tonight closing all 6 of these programs.
Well, the only thing we came up with there was, we talked about the idea of closing all of these programs this time, but we would give time to see if we could build them. At the same time, we'd already heard that things had been tried and had begun, we had tried things before and it had not built any further than where we are. So there is a possibility at this point. I mean, we're talking about either now or 6 months from now if these numbers stay the same. Or, 2 months from now if these numbers stay the same.
That is correct. And just keep in mind that because some of the building goes through the Department of Social Services, we have to give them a 60-day notice prior to closing the programs.
Dr. Hargrave, can you elaborate a little bit on some of the efforts that have been done, the tasks that have been tried to build up these numbers and have failed, and what might yet be done to save it, to build them up?
Okay.
I'm not sure if Mr. Trotter, that was prior to me, had any formal plan for building those programs. I do know that he had spoken with his staff at the time, and that they in turn had talked to their parents to let them know, what the possibility was. I do know that at Central, they even went out into the car rider line and promoted the program and talked to the parents about that. So, they have known that this was a possibility, and they have been talking, but if the parents aren't employed and don't need that morning program, or if they can get it from a relative, then, I don't know that there's any talking them into it.
Has a flyer gone out to all the students' parents so that all of them in the particular schools are aware of this? Is that something that's worth trying?
Do you mean to let them know that we may close the program if they don't join the morning program?
Oh, let them know about the morning program, the existence of it, and then what it does and what it...
Actually, just recently, I sent a flyer out to the schools, just talking about prime time and what it offered, and, the program that we offered in the morning program, but not like handed to each individual parent, not since I have been there.
Well, I'm impressed to find out that you went to the car rider line. That is a sacred area. When you start talking to the people that are out there in the lines coming in or going out with those children, that's something. So if that has been tried and we didn't get any numbers from that, I'm not sure what else there is. So that's a real question.
And I will also say that it's not a new problem. I know this is a very difficult decision and a task that is before us, but even when Renee was in charge of the program, this was a concern of hers. And prior to her leaving, she did come before the board and discuss the possibility of raising rates. But at that time, the economy was beginning to take a dive, and so she didn't bring that before you. But this concern has been here, the number of students that were participating in some of these programs.
And Mr. Prater, if I may, I know that this is a program that's advertised during kindergarten registration at the beginning of each school year as well. As far as the flyer that you mentioned.
Don't claim to be
I wanted to be sure that information was getting out.
We do it those 2 times in a year, but, recently Ms. Oak obviously speaks to that.
It's
But
part of
if
their
you
recruiting
start
effort.
looking at the rates, I'm not a mathematician, but if you look at number one at Cool Spring, where you have one to try to make up $540 or $514 a month, you would need 50 students, and we've got one. Is that correct? That's a hard line to come up with, and this has to be a self-sustaining program.
Right. The burden that you would have to put on one person to even come close to breaking even with this program is just, it doesn't make any sense to even attempt to ask something like that.
Right.
I think what we've got to remember is just what we've said. This is an enterprise fund. It's not a requirement, and if it was a business losing this kind of money, they would cease to exist. So I'm going to go ahead and make the motion that we close the morning primetime program at Celeste Hinkle, Central, Cloverleaf, Cool Spring, NB Mills, and Troutman.
We have a motion on the floor to close all 6 of these morning programs listed here. Is there a second to that motion? I guess we don't have an immediate second. We had some discussion last week after your first proposal was made about closing the 3 least well-attended and then giving a little bit of time on the other, but then there was some discussion beginning to lead into the point that it felt like it would probably be an inevitable recommendation based on what had been tried before and failed to make a recommendation within the next few months, whatever that might be, to close the other 3. I don't know that the other board members all heard that, so before we ask for a second, I'll just, so if there's any board members uncomfortable with how the administration really feels about that, could you all make a few comments about your feelings of going ahead and closing just 3 or going ahead and tackling the whole group?
Go ahead.
Well, as you said, you know, we are talking about people and their employment. We're talking about parents who don't have daycare in the morning, possibly. On the other hand, at the rate of the loss that we're taking right now, unless the economy put a lot of people back to work very quickly, you know, we're not going to need that morning program. It's not going to grow. Giving them, you know, another 2 months would help the parents. I might say, too, that with the employees that are affected, there are really 4 people that would lose their benefits if we took away that 2-hour morning time. And if it's possible, and we are working to try and see if we can find them that time in another realm of our district, then they wouldn't lose benefits. The other directors or the site coordinators, they would just move their hours to keep, you know, the time that they're losing. And we would have 2 that would lose 2 hours of employment but would not lose benefits.
Well, I'll look at the other group here. We've got the group of personnel, that's true, but we have a group of students here that right now, they're pretty well locked into a morning program. And I look at Troutman, that's 18 kids. We've got, that's 18 families probably we have to go to and say that we wouldn't do that. So what we discussed, and I recognize Mr. Shoemaker's motion wholeheartedly, but at this time, if we close 3 at this time and give a period of time, taking into consideration the 60 days and everything, come back again and revisit it again in 2 months and see if we've grown any, and it would be inevitable to close the others at that time. So those are steps that are going to come up. Is that not true?
Yes, and that is a discussion that we had on last Monday, which seemed to be an appropriate thing to do, and we said that we would try to increase those numbers, and if we could not, we would bring that information back to you and ask you to give us some direction on making a decision at that time.
And that may be an extra step, actually, if we close the first 3, that it becomes a real issue then for those that are sitting back on the sidelines and wondering what might happen. I mean, we've sort of made the statement. So that might encourage any that are on the fence about joining a program if they thought they might need the services, or make the parents of the students already in the program a little more assertive with people who may be on the fence about trying to get the program going more successfully somewhere else, if we gave them a little bit more time there. I mean, that would be one option for doing that. But any other questions or discussion on the motion before, or is there a second to that motion that's been made?
I think a phased approach would give everybody a little more time. The larger numbers that would be more affected, it would give them time to either grow the program or get other arrangements made. I think going at it as we discussed in the committee of the whole, kind of phasing it with pretty much everybody knowing that we're going to be right back visiting this again and probably taking the same action. I still think it would help all concerned do it in a phased approach, like we talked about.
But you're still gonna have to do 60 days even for the
Well,
first
from a point
three,
of-
right?
From a point of order.
Yes.
Since we have a motion on the floor, we really need a second to discuss the motion further. I think our options are to either have a second of this motion and then vote yea or nay, or the motion dies on the floor and we consider another motion.
Mr. Chairman, in the interest of being cooperative with the board, since it feels like a second will not be obtained, I'll withdraw my motion at this time. But in the discussion for the motion that is made next, which I assume will be to close 3 of these sites, I'd like to have a definite time frame set for the other 3. So I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, original motion withdrawn. Does anyone want to make a motion to close the 3 lowest attended programs at Celeste Tinkle Central and Cool Spring as originally recommended, with the addition that we add a time limit to review the other 3 programs?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.